Hello, everyone. Welcome back. Right now, we are here with the ED&I Youth Advisory Council. Erica, Zach, Isabella, and Kina. Everybody.
Hi, thanks for
So
having
yeah.
us.
So yeah, this is them, and they're here to speak.
Perfect. So I will start our presentation up.
Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for coming. We are four of the members of the first Equity, Diversity, and Inclusion Youth Advisory Council, and we're here today to talk a little bit about the work that we do, what equity, diversity, and inclusion mean, and action items and ways for you to implement these ideas on your team and in your outreach.
So we want to first start off by introducing all of us. So hi, I'm Erica. I use she, her pronouns, and I am the ED&I Youth Advisory Council Chair for this year. I am an FRC Team 5885 alum from LaSalle, Ontario, and this is my second year on the Youth Advisory Council, and I'm going to pass it over to Isabella now to introduce herself.
Hi, everyone. I'm Isabella. I also use she, her pronouns. I'm a member of the Youth Advisory Council, and I'm also an alum of FTC Team 9890, the Rubies from Minneapolis.
Hi, my name is Kina. I use she, her pronouns. I'm also a YAC member. I'm from FRC Team 624 out of Houston, Texas.
Hi, my name is Zach. I use he, him pronouns. I'm a first-year YAC member, and I am also the outreach coordinator for Team FRC 1111 based out of Edgewater, Maryland.
So the Youth Advisory Council, which was formed in 2018, has 11 members, which are both alumni and current FRC and FTC students. And we meet twice a month with first advisors and staff to talk about different ED&I topics. If you go to the next slide, we can actually talk about our mission. So what we do is we serve to represent youth within FIRST Equity, Diversity, and Inclusion Department by creating educational resources, platforms to share diverse stories, and a strategic plan to transform FIRST internal culture to match our external mission.
So now we want to talk to everyone about what exactly equity, diversity, and inclusion is and what it means. So to start off, we want to talk about equity. So equity recognizes that not everyone is afforded the same opportunities and that some are subject to more barriers than others. Equity starts by acknowledging these unequal starting places and making a commitment to correct this imbalance. So when you're thinking about equity, we want you to ask yourself, what can I do to help those around me have the same opportunities to grow, learn, and develop? So whether that be on your FRC or FTC team, what can you do to make sure all the members of your team feel that they have the exact same opportunities to grow and learn that you do?
So the second component of EDI is diversity. Diversity can be used to describe a group that has members of various races, genders, identities, ethnicities, and more. Some questions you want to ask yourself are, what groups am I a part of? Are these groups diverse? And if they aren't, what can I do to make them more diverse? You want to look around and make sure you have many different perspectives represented in your groups.
And finally, inclusion. So inclusion is about people with different identities feeling valued, leveraged, and welcomed into a given setting, such as a team or a workplace. So inclusion works to encourage and embrace all members of society. And it's about not only having diverse perspectives on your team, but making sure everyone feels valued and able to speak their opinions and be participants in your team. So some questions to ask yourself about inclusion are, what do I not realize I am doing that is negatively impacting those on my team? And how can I make everyone feel welcomed and valued?
So now we want to talk a little bit more about the various initiatives and projects that the ED&I YC have taken on. So first off, one of our newest initiatives this year is our social media. So I encourage everyone to go and give us a follow at first.yac on Instagram. And through our social media, we want to educate a broader community on all these ED&I topics. We want to share and promote various resources so that everyone can learn about ED&I is and implement it into their daily lives. We want to empower FIRST youth to share their voice, as well as highlight FIRST ED&I initiatives, and of course, share our council projects so that everyone can stay up to date on all of the different things that we are doing.
So one of our other main projects is our blog project. So this is currently in progress. We're working with First marketing staff on it, but essentially it's getting posted up on the First Inspires blog that educate about equity, diversity, and inclusion topics. So our goal with this is to amplify the voices of First students with different perspectives and to promote knowledge sharing to help other members of First. So right now we're looking for writers. If you know anyone who you think has had unique experiences in First, done really interesting outreach related to ED&I, kind of any topic related to that, feel free to email our email, which is on the bottom of this slide here, firstyac@gmail.com. And then the image above it is just an example of a blog post we're working on that I kind of made up as a sample. So we have everyone talk about their team affiliation, what equity, diversity, and inclusion mean to you, and then kind of respond to a prompt or a general topic that can vary from gender experiences to language barriers to kind of anything related to the umbrella of equity, diversity, and inclusion.
Along with those two amazing projects, we also advise on First ED&I initiatives. This really brings an opportunity to elevate the voices of First students to First staff. First is an organization that serves the youth, so it makes sense that the youth have a voice. We also shared stories and experiences for a judge diversity project. This really let the people who coordinate judges have insight onto the experiences of the people getting judged and allowed them to make decisions to improve judging for the students in the future. We also created the youth ED&I training modules and the animation video. So we have 2 ED&I trainings currently on the First Inspires website. We have the youth voice training and we have training designed for mentors. This really allows for people associated with First in any way to get training on ED&I issues.
So now we want to give you some action items that you can take back into your team and into your everyday life. So first off, how can you learn more about ED&I? So at the beginning of this presentation, we told you very brief descriptions and examples of what equity, diversity, and inclusion means. However, there are many, many more resources available. So on the First ED&I page on the First website, there are many resources and trainings for both students and mentors. So Zach just mentioned that the ED&I YAC was involved in creating youth voice training modules, which are designed specifically for First youth. However, there are also other training modules that are specific to mentors, as we understand their ED&I journey can vary from that of a student. There's also extensive resources on other topics, such as gender equity and disability inclusion. So I highly encourage everybody to go to the ED&I page on the First Inspires website and read all about the various resources and knowledge that is available. As you can see, on the right of the screen, there are 3 sections of this website that go over initiatives and grants. There's a lot of ED&I grants that I encourage everyone to look into, as well as training and resources, where you will find all of the amazing modules that we are talking about, as well as the impact section, which goes over more numbers of all the ways that the ED&I department has impacted First youth. And these are just some codes that Kina made to allow everyone easy access to the ED&I page as well as the ED&I training. So I'll leave this up for a minute if anyone would like to scan these codes, so that will bring you directly to this page that we were talking about on the First website, so that everyone can have easy access to all of these resources that we are mentioning. So Kina, are you able to tell us now how we can incorporate ED&I onto our teams?
Yeah, of course. So ED&I is a really big topic, and because of that, it can feel really intimidating or challenging to incorporate it into your team. It's kind of confusing. So what we suggest is actually incorporating ED&I into the beginning of the year training, similar to how you would safety. ED&I is a topic that, just like safety, is important for all members of First to be educated on, just to provide the best experience for every member in First. So you want to incentivize learning about ED&I, and things like completing the training module from First can be incentivized. Something my team does is we actually offer hours, since we have an hour requirement, for completing the training module and submitting proof of it. You want to facilitate open conversations about ED&I. Having small discussions at the start of each meeting, maybe going over why it's important to use your pronouns when you introduce yourself, and so on. It's just a really good way to get students thinking about ED&I and what it means to talk about these things and how everyday people are impacted by ED&I. So I'm showing actually an example from my team, Kryptonite, about what we go through for our training. So we first go over what is ED&I as a group, and we show something much like what you guys were seeing earlier, brief descriptions of equity, diversity, and inclusion. The next thing we go over after we cover what ED&I is we talk about how it impacts our team. So it's something that can be a little hard for team members to think about how ED&I actually impacts them, but we ask individual members to consider not only how they're impacted by ED&I, but how they impact other members with ED&I and equity, diversity, and inclusion stuff. We talk about our team culture and how we want to provide the best possible environments for all of our team members and how we can best encourage that. And then we also talk about the FIRST community as a whole. We're trying to really start discussions and make it an open conversation topic, something that's not scary. Then we go over what you can do. So these are a couple of examples. We have a couple more slides that go over different things, but we start with including your pronouns while introducing yourself, because that's something really simple that everyone can do. We also talk about being aware of ED&I issues and highlighting them, talking about things that are issues so we can be fixing the problems that come up. We want to start conversations so we can take actions and then make the world a better place. So then we cover the first ED&I training module. We introduce it and then we offer hours to any member who complete it. And on the next slide, you can actually see the way we ask members to submit proof. So it's something really simple, just about every team can do. We ask people to upload a picture of a completion of every module, and then they get 5 hours out of it. And then we test over this section. So for this entire training, it's actually part of a larger PR training that goes over like what FIRST is and its mission, and what Kryptonite is and its history. And so we have an ED&I session introduced into this. And in the next section, you can actually see the parts of the test we ask. It's nothing hard. It just sounds like really hard when they say test, but we ask what ED&I stands for, and we ask people to select what different things you can do to encourage ED&I in FIRST. So we just ask people to recognize that they can complete the free ED&I training, include their pronouns, and be aware of ED&I issues and highlight them within FIRST and within our team itself. So this really, by testing over this material, we make sure that people retain the information that we've gone over and encourage them to do these things because they know that we know that they know about it.
So now that you've learned how to incorporate EDI into your team culture, I'm going to now talk about how to incorporate EDI into your outreach specifically. So one of the main places that you can really see that you can improve EDI is during your outreach events. So a big thing is considering what barriers could be blocking people from participating in your events. So you have to remember that some barriers might be physical. For example, make sure to provide adequate signage for people who need ramps or elevators if your location requires them, but they can also be non-physical. So for example, if you're playing loud music, you might want to consider having a quiet room for people to go decompress who are sensitive to loud noise. Also gender-neutral restrooms, which will provide people who aren't comfortable using binary restrooms a place to safely use the bathroom. Also, some people may have monetary barriers. So you should try to have a way that your team can either reduce the cost or offer free transportation and accommodations to events that may be harder to access. And also having easy ways to get to your place, like public transportation, bike trails, can also make it easier for people who might not have access to a car.
So I know we just covered many different topics from what ED&I is, how you can incorporate ED&I training within your teams, and how you can use ED&I to transform your outreach and team culture. So now we would love to know if anyone has any questions about ED&I, anything that we have mentioned how they can easily integrate ED&I within their teams. Any suggestions or things you would like to see the ED&I YIC work on this year, please let us know, because we're always open to suggestions and ways that we can further our reach and education of ED&I. So thank you. So producers, if there are any questions from the chat, please let us know so that we can address all of them. So right now there are no questions in the chat. However, I thought it would be great if I could ask the other YC members why ED&I is important to you and why you believe everyone should be incorporating and learning about ED&I.
I can start on that, I guess. I think ED&I became important to me. I did first Lego League for a really long time. And in Minneapolis, the Minneapolis public school system where I went to school had a really thriving first Lego League program. And then I decided I wanted to keep going with it. And there were no FTC teams in the entire city in any of the public high schools. And so my team and I, we ended up doing our own fundraising, meeting in someone's basement, kind of making it work. But I did a lot of work when I was in high school to make teams in other Minneapolis public schools, mentor them, try and make sustainable programs for high school students who are interested in STEM. So that was something that really got my passion started. And I think there's a lot of great work that FIRST is doing and a lot more that all of us can do as members of the community to make it more accessible to people. So that's kind of where I got started.
For me, I actually joined robotics at a pretty young age in second grade through Girl Scouts. So I grew up with a bit of a unique perspective of FIRST because I was in an all-girls team and really didn't interact with a lot of guys. So I got to grow up and see these girls who had really strong opinions and views of STEM and things like that. And they really thought that they could do whatever they believed in. However, when I got into 8th grade, I joined a different robotics team. So I was doing 2 different robotics teams at once. And the team was co-ed. And that was my first experience really with guys on a team with me. And I had an experience where a couple of different guys on the team actually told me that I couldn't do robotics because I was a girl. And it was really shocking to me that people could actually say things like that. And sometimes it's supposed to be said as a joke, but it's not really funny when you're a young, impressionable 8th grader. So I guess that really showed me that outside of kind of the sheltered community I was in, there were real issues that people were facing with being able to access programs, not only actual barriers like socioeconomic ones, but in terms of societal issues. So I really wanted to make FIRST accessible in a way to everyone could have the same experiences I had while growing up and being in a really loving community. Because I think everyone deserves to have kind of FIRST be their family.
So for me specifically, when I entered robotics in 9th grade, I had no idea what EDI even meant. So I joined this organization called LGBT Plus of FIRST, which is 100% student-led. And long story short, they were having applications and I applied to be an admin and I got in. And then one of the admins was like, hey, you should join this EDI YAC thing. And I'm like, this looks really cool. And I applied and I got in. And really, I have just learned so much from this program. And I've become so passionate about everything. These barriers are real and you can see them every day. And it means a lot to me that there's just such a passionate group of people who are trying to tackle these issues head on.
We actually have a question from the chat for Mr. Hobbins, and he asks, would you like to see the day when all mentors have taken the ED&I trainings? And this is a great point to bring up because it's something that the YIC is actually very passionate about and something that we have talked about at length with FIRST staff. So currently mentors are not required to take any sort of ED&I training. And speaking for myself, it was something I was very shocked about and something I'm sure many of the other YC members were shocked about as well, because we understand that mentors are people that students interact with very heavily within a robotics team. And it is important that mentors are aware of the various ED&I topics and issues that students may face, and how these mentors can help to create a welcoming environment for all participants. Kina, do you have something you'd like to add to that?
Yeah, actually. So something that I think a lot of people don't quite think about is in terms of students, we age out of the program. So we're only, for FRC specifically, we're only in robotics for up to 4 years. And mentors are there for so much longer and can do so much to impact really the culture of a team and the community of FIRST. Mentors do so much for teams. And it's really important for students to be able to feel welcomed by these mentors, because they're the ones really guiding where the team is going in the long term. Overall, mentors having ED&I training does so much, not only in terms of the team itself, but if mentors from one team get ED&I trained, then other mentors will soon follow. And I would love to see a day where every mentor that I see is ED&I trained and is completely prepared to be as welcoming as possible towards different students of all races, genders, everything. Like it's incredible how much of an impact a mentor can have. And I think that probably in order to be the best mentor possible, mentors should be aware of these issues so they can help out the members on their team.
Zach, Isabella, do you have anything you'd like to mention on this?
All I want to say is that, high school is just such a formative time for students. And I think that, they're going to ask a lot of questions. And I think mentors should be there equipped with the answers, from the EDI training. So if a student comes and says like, why all this conversation about pronouns, the mentor can easily explain, why it's so important and how it makes an environment very much more inclusive. And I think just having those answers for students can really create a positive team environment and really shape these kids to be, the accepting leaders of the future.
I really agree with what everyone else has said. I just kind of want to add that mentors and judges and coaches and just all of the adults affiliated with different FIRST teams can really genuinely shape the experience of students. Even if all of the students are devoted to ED&I and treat each other with inclusion and respect, I know I've definitely attended meetings and gone to places where the mentors themselves treated me in a way that I wasn't super comfortable with, or didn't make me feel included, and it made me not want to be in that space anymore. So I think a lot of people underestimate the importance of the adults in FIRST who are so gracious to donate their time to help all of us. But I think the more that they are informed, like everyone else has said, it can educate students about ED&I topics and also do their best to make things inclusive. It goes a really, really long way for student experience in the program.
I think an overall topic that all of us have touched on with respect to mentor trainings is that mentors largely shape the environment of a team that a student is involved in. So if you're a mentor watching this, please, please, please go and educate yourself on ED&I. Go to the FIRST website and take the ED&I trainings. Encourage other mentors, other volunteers to take these trainings as well, because the more people that we are able to educate on ED&I and who are able to become aware of all that ED&I encompasses, the more of an accepting community FIRST will become, and the more lives we will be able to positively impact through the FIRST program. So I hope that answered your question, Mr. Hobbins. It's something that we are very, very passionate about as an ED&I YAC. So do we have any other questions from the chat that we can answer? Tina, Isabella, Zach, is there anything that you would like to further mention that we haven't been able to cover yet during our presentation, and things that you feel is important for the FIRST community to know?
Something else I would like to mention, since we're talking about adults in FIRST, is also judges and volunteers here. You guys are a really big part of the experience that all students have when they attend any competition, whether it be FLL, FTC, or FRC. I've had experiences with judges that have been so impactful and have truly shaped where I want to go in my career and what I want to do with my life. And I've also had experiences where after coming out of a judging session, I've questioned, why am I still in first? So I would like to encourage you guys to take ED&I trainings as well. It's incredible, the impact. You guys, students, judges, parents, everyone has on the students in first. And I would like the people who are watching to consider the impact they have on others, because you guys are important and we all have a really big impact.
Thank you for bringing that up, Kina.
We do have a question from the Twitch chat. So is ED&I training a requirement for TDSB teachers? Or would anyone know, TDSB being the Toronto District School Board?
I
Or just
am
like any
not
school board?
I'm not sure if ED&I training is mandatory for any school boards. However, if any school board admin is watching this, I highly encourage you to consider implementing this for all, whether it be first administrators or teachers within your programs, because it is important, as we said earlier, to create an accepting environment where all students feel valued and feel heard. And ED&I training is an amazing step in creating such an environment.
And then we do have another question from Mr. Hobbins in the chat. So are there any initiatives to have an ED&I team lead for every team?
That is a great point. Zach, Isabella, Kina, would you like to share your opinions on that?
I don't believe we currently have an initiative. I do think that is something that would be really great for every team to have. Certainly for my team, we don't have a specific ED&I team lead, but our team president, one of their responsibilities is to encourage, I would say, the education of ED&I topics and to create a welcoming team culture. So I think that either every team should have an ED&I lead, or they should make sure that it's a responsibility of a person on the team, whether it be a mentor or a student, or maybe a mentor and a student, whatever works best.
But let's also remember that ED&I is not the responsibility of just one person,
Yes.
but that's something that every single member of your team should be consciously thinking about and implementing while they're on the team. So yes, as Kina mentioned, it'd be great if we could have one person who could overall help to contribute to the creation of this ED&I community environment. However, every single individual on the team should understand that it is their responsibility to make sure that everyone is treated with respect and properly invited into a welcoming environment. So I think our time is almost up. So we would like to thank all of the producers and members of Team 2056 for inviting us to participate in this conference today. We hope everyone who's watching has learned a lot about ED&I and is going to go to the First Inspires website and go to the ED&I page and look at all the training modules and read all of the resources that are available. And please follow us on our Instagram at first.yc for more updates on what our council is going to be doing within the next year and to learn about all of the other resources that First ED&I is putting out. So thank you.
Yeah, thanks guys. Thanks for coming on.